Welcome to another instructional bulletin from the California Football Officials Association. Today we're going to be focusing on post-scrimmage kick enforcement training, or what's often referred to as PSK. So let's get into it. In order for us to talk about post-scrimmage kick enforcement, we need to know what the definition of a post-scrimmage kick is, or post-scrimmage kick foul. It's a foul by the receiving team, RB, when the foul occurs during a scrimmage kick, other than a try or a successful field goal. The ball needs to cross the expanded neutral zone. The foul needs to occur beyond the expanded neutral zone. The foul occurs before the end of the kick, and Team K will not be next to put the ball into play. So PSK is a special enforcement back in Rule 10.4.3, given that Team K is, by rule, still in possession of the ball at the time of the foul. Therefore, to avoid re-kicks, Team R can still be penalized without giving Team K a significant advantage. So in other words, PSK fouls are always committed by the receiving team. You can't have a PSK foul that is enforced for a foul by the kicking team, only by the receiving team. The foul has to occur during the kick. So if it's during the Team R run, then it will be enforced using fouls that occur during a running play. But the foul has to occur during the kick, which is why it's so important when reporting to your referee that the foul occurred during the kick, because then right away our referees will be thinking post-scrimmage kick enforcement. The ball and the foul need to be beyond that expanded neutral zone, and Team K did not legally recover the ball at the end of the down there. So let's get into to kind of what during the kick means. So we've discussed a lot in the past the kind of definitions and phases of a play. During a scrimmage kick or a punt, this isn't any different. So before or at the snap, a foul occurs before or at the snap. It could be a live ball foul, such as an illegal shift, illegal motion, or a dead ball foul. And you can think a false start, delay a game, etc. There really isn't a phase there. And we talk about in other trainings, fouls that occur before or at the snap. But then we have a legal snap, which is a loose ball and by definition a backwards pass. And the kicker, who's lined up 10 yards behind the line of scrimmage in a position to receive the snap, gains possession and kicks the ball. So now any foul that occurs during the kick by the receiving team is a PSK foul, or could be enforced with post-scrimmage kick enforcement. So then the receivers, we've got a ball in the air, and then we've got a receiver standing somewhere on the field for Team R, gains possession and becomes a runner, or gives a valid fair catch signal. And since team possession, has now changed, any fouls committed by K or R are enforced as fouls during a run. One thing to note is that a Team R muff, a muff is an unsuccessful attempt to gain possession, does not change the status of the ball. So picture a receiver standing back there ready to catch a kick, and it goes off their shoulder, or they miss it, or it goes through their arms and it goes straight down. They did not possess the ball, legally possess the ball. We still have a kick. And Fred Robertson up there in Channel Coast taught us very early on, a kick is a kick is a kick until it's not a kick anymore. So until Team R possesses the ball, even if Team K touches the ball, we even have, first touching, and we'll have a beanbag down and we'll talk about that later. But a kick is still a kick is a kick. So if you have a muff of a ball and then the ball goes across the plane of the goal line, we still have a touchback. And we'll get to some of those situations here, in a little bit. But think about the phases of a scrimmage play when the foul occurs. And these fouls will always occur during the kick. So here's our first situation. We've got our line of scrimmage is at the K20, and we're 4th and 10. During the kick, R40 illegally blocks K15 in the back at the R35. Receiver R1 gives a valid fair catch signal and catches the ball at the R30. So the first thing I want to talk about here is a fun fact on why our deep officials drop a beanbag at the end of a scrimmage kick. That spot, the end of the scrimmage kick, becomes what we refer to as the basic spot for PSK penalty enforcement. So always, 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 deep officials, drop a beanbag at the end of the kick. Now, if the ball rolls out of bounds, frankly, I still like a beanbag down. Some of you might not. You'll just grab a ball and put it down, at the spot where it went out of bounds. But, a beanbag down still signifies the end of the kick. And again, that could become a spot of penalty enforcement, or is always the basic spot for a foul that occurs during the kick. So again, we've got our end of the kick is going to be there at the R30, and our spot of the foul is at the R35. And now we'll use 3-in-1 penalty enforcement. So the basic spot, again, the end of the kick is the R30, and the spot of the foul is the 35. Since the foul occurred beyond the basic spot, which is the R30, and the foul was at the R35, we're going to enforce this penalty from the basic spot. So why would we enforce this? Think about it, kind of logically here. Why would we go up 5 yards, give Team R, the 5 yards, and then go back 10 yards from the spot? No. The basic spot in this case, the end of the kick, the R30, hurts Team R more. So we're going to take this and the ball will be put into play R 1st and 10, from the R40. And officials, when reporting this foul to your referee, you want to make sure that you have all the components there. The result of the play is a fair catch at the R30. I'm 99.8% sure that our referees don't know that the result of the play was a fair catch at the R30. During the kick, so now our referees start to think PSK enforcement. Illegal block in the back, receiving team, number 40. And if you got any of that wrong, the phase of the play during the kick, or whether this was the receiving team or the kicking team, penalty enforcement could go in so many different directions. So keep it simple for our referees. Result of the play. When did the foul occur? The type of foul, whom the foul was on, and a number, if you can get it and remember it. And it's something that we all work on, I think, every single season there. So again, result of the play is a fair catch at the R30. During the kick, illegal block in the back, receiving team, number 40. And now the referee pretty much has his or her announcement that they're going to make. During the kick, illegal block in the back, receiving team, number 40. First down, and point in the direction of Team R. Our second situation here, we're K 4th and 10. We're punting from the 20-yard line again, and during the kick, R40 legally blocks K 15 in the back at the R27. So we've got a flag down at the R27. Receiver R1 gives a valid fair catch signal and catches the ball at the R30. So now the R30 becomes our basic spot. That's the end of the kick. So again, the basic spot for fouls by Team R that occurred during the kick is always the end of the kick. The basic spot is always the end of the kick. The spot of the foul does not change the position of the basic spot. So in this particular case, because we have a foul by Team R behind the basic spot, this foul will be enforced from the spot of the foul. This hurts Team R more, the receiving team more. We're not going to give Team R 3 yards and then march off the penalty from there. No. Could Team R or Team K have gotten to Team R a little bit faster had the block in the back, not occurred? So again, officials, if I were reporting this to our referee, result of the play is a fair catch at the R30. During the kick, illegal block in the back, receiving team, number 40. My flag is good. Spot foul. And this is where you would want to make sure that your flag is in a good spot, because again, whether the foul occurs beyond or behind the basic spot really drives or really defines where the penalty will be enforced from there. So me saying to my referee, my flag is good, spot foul, they're automatically going to think spot foul because you're pointing out the fact that your flag is in a good spot there. So if the foul is beyond the basic spot, as in our first situation, you might not need to say my flag is good, because then referees might start thinking spot foul. You don't need to do that there. You don't need to provide that information. So in our third situation here, we've got K, 4th and 10 from the R40. So we're moved up a little bit here. And during the kick, R40 illegally holds K15 at the R12. Receiver R1 muffs the kick at the R7, and the kick rolls into the end zone where it's covered by K72. So as I mentioned earlier, a muff does not change the status of the ball. A muff is the touching of a loose ball, in this case a kick, by a player in an unsuccessful attempt to gain possession. A muffed kick does not change the status of the ball. It's still a kick here. So we've got a kick that ends in the end zone, or a loose ball that ended up in the end zone, and therefore we have a touchback. First and foremost, the Team K fans are probably going to be super pissed off because the moment that that ball crossed the plane of the goal line, the ball is dead on Friday night. So we have a touchback here. And when we have a touchback, the basic spot becomes the R20, the spot at which the ball will next be put into play. So if the basic spot is the R20 and the spot of the foul is the R12, we enforce from the spot of the foul in this case because the foul occurred behind the basic spot. So in this particular case, the ball will be put into play, R 1st and 10 from the R6. We go half the distance to the goal since the foul occurred at the 12. And the way that I would report this to my referee, result of the play is a touchback. During the kick, holding receiving team number 40, my flag is good. It's in a good spot foul. So now everybody knows we're going to go from the spot of the foul, and you want to make sure that your flag is in a good position there. So our fourth situation here, we've got K 4th and 10 from the K40, and during the kick, R40 holds K15 at the R35. Receiver R1 muffs the kick at the 27, and the ball is recovered by K1 at the R25. So in this case, Team K is in legal possession of the ball at the end of the down. It touched Team R, and Team K recovered it. So remember at the beginning here, in order to qualify as a PSK foul, R has to be next to put the ball into play. And because they aren't here, we're going to have K 1st and 10 from the K25. Team K here will decline the holding foul and take the result of the play. Because in order to enforce the holding foul, we would go back to PSK enforcement. And the foul would be enforced and R would be next to put the ball into play. So a little bit more complex here in terms of how to report this to your referee. The result of the play is a muffed kick by the kicking team. During the kick, holding receiving team number 40. You could even throw in, Team K is in possession, at the, what did we say there, at the 25, yard line. And the referee is going to turn right towards the press box. During the kick, holding receiving team number 40. That penalty is declined. First down, and point in Team K's direction there. So I think our final situation here tonight is K 4th and 10 from the K40. And during the kick, R40 legally holds or takes down gunner K15 at the K41, 42 yard line. So we do see this a lot on our gunners that are way outside that are going down to try to cover the receiver there. And receiver R1 makes a valid fair catch at the R16. So our CFO standard, even though, and I bring this situation up because the foul did occur here within the expanded neutral zone. The expanded neutral zone goes 2 yards into the defensive backfield. So this foul is right about at the expanded neutral zone. Think of it that way. It's quick, it's outside, on those gunners there. But if this holding foul had no impact on the kick, the snapper snapped the ball, the kicker got the, possesses the ball, and the kicker kicks the ball. We want to make this a PSK foul. It had no impact on the kick. And as you've heard me say, if you've joined any of my training sessions in the past, we don't need to be that good. If you're the back judge in this case, or you're one of the line of scrimmage officials and you see this action on the side there with your gunner, are you going to take your eyes off of it and look to see, where the kick is? No, just make this, a foul by team R, during the kick and enforce as a PSK foul. So I think the fair catch signal was at the 17, give or take. The end of the kick was at the 16. This foul occurred at the K41, which is beyond the basic spot. So we're going to enforce this from the end of the kick. Result of the play is a fair catch at the 16 during the kick, holding receiving team number 40. And we'll get into a couple of clips here that will illustrate some of these situations. All right, our first clip here tonight, we're going to pay attention to the action at the top of the screen. I mentioned those gunners and they're holding, and this play is no different. We're going to get a big takedown right at about the R35 here. So right about there, receiving team just pulls that gunner, down to the ground, and the ball rolls out of bounds at the R18. So we've got a flag by our back judge here on this hold, and the flag only gets to about the R18, give or take. So this would be a good opportunity, back judges, for you to drop a beanbag at the out of bounds spot so that we know where the end of the kick is. And then on your way up, grab your flag and drop it at the R35. When I get into my referee, I would say result of the play is a scrimmage kick out of bounds at the R18. During the kick, holding receiving team number 12. Because I don't have to say my flag is good, even though it is in a good spot. Shows the cameras, shows the coaches, shows the fans that you know what you saw and where you saw it. But if your referee asks, we can say, yes, post-scrimmage kick enforcement, we're going to go from the end of the kick here. So remember, the foul occurred beyond the basic spot. Basic spot is the R18, the end of the kick. Foul occurred beyond the basic spot at the R35. Therefore, this foul will be enforced half the distance from the end of the kick, R 1st and 10 from the R9. Our next play here, we're going to focus on the action at the bottom of the screen now. So this special teams player had himself a difficult evening here, but pay attention to the action on the bottom of the screen. See some pretty quick action that the gunner or the receiving team just really takes down that gunner really quick here. Actually, I should have mentioned too in the previous video, special thanks to our Inland Empire unit. I believe they submitted this film over to me. They got a great new IC in Gil Rodriguez. So Gil, thank you again for the film here. But a lot of discussion with regards to, I don't think that this flag was thrown because the ball went out of bounds on the other side of the field. But I think that we can all agree that the action by the receiving team at the bottom of the screen here, would really create a significant advantage for the receiving team, had the kick gone into the middle of the field there. So while I agree that in this particular case, since the ball went out of bounds on the other side of the field, that there should be no flag here, this is a foul, no question about it. It's just whether or not it made a material impact on the play. So let's assume that there was a flag on the field. We've got a ball that is out of bounds at, say, the R47, there, call it the 40, let's call it the 46, make the math a little bit easy. And we've got a foul that occurs, pretty much right at the line of scrimmage, as in one of our scenarios there, really just a big takedown right at the R35. The restriction starts like immediately at the snap, and then just a big takedown hold there at the R30. Because this foul occurs beyond the basic spot, the end of the kick, we're going to enforce this from the basic spot, which is the end of the kick. And this would be R 1st and 10 from, call it the R38. And for our final clip here tonight, we're going to take a look at the action kind of closer to the goal line here. So I'm going to let this play out for a moment. So we've got a legal scrimmage kick that is then muffed by the receiver, and then we've got an illegal block in the back at about the R5 there. So I'll let this play through again, and then I'll slow it down in a couple of places. So we've got a snap, we've got a kick, and we've got a muff by the receiver. So remember, we talked earlier, this is an unsuccessful attempt to gain possession of the ball, and therefore we still have a kick. And really great job by this back judge here. You'll see, so here's the muff right about there. Unsuccessful attempt to gain possession of the ball. we do not have a beanbag down. We do not need a beanbag in this particular case. We still have a kick, and the only thing that we need a beanbag for is first touching by Team K or the end of the kick. So this back judge does a really good job staying behind the receiver. You have goal line responsibility to make sure that that ball does not cross the plane of the goal line. But in this case, we have possession by the receiving team, and we have a beanbag down. Doesn't need to be at the exact spot of possession, just needs to be on the yard line in which there is possession. And then you see this action here, this Team K player at about the R10. Then we've got an illegal block in the back right there. And then down at, say, the R6, give or take. So in this particular case, this is one of those, let's kind of play it through here again, where we've got a kick, we've got the muff, now we've got a beanbag down. So when that beanbag goes down, the kick is over. This foul did not occur during the kick. This foul occurs during Team R's run. So we would enforce this somewhat similarly here, where we've got the foul, call it the foul really occurs, call it at the R5 there, just to make it a little bit simple. And, well, the run ends at the R5. So in this particular case, and I'll let it play through here again, beanbag down at the end of the kick. Good job by this back judge. We've got a foul there for an illegal block in the back. During the run, I would report this to my referee. Result of the play is receiving team's ball at the 5-yard line. After the kick or during the run, illegal block in the back, receiving team, number 40, whoever that is, and we would enforce this half the distance of the goal, 1st and 10 for Team R. All right, and finally, just a couple of quick takeaways. PSK enforcement only and always applies to fouls by the receiving team during the kick. The ball must cross the expanded neutral zone. The foul must occur beyond the expanded neutral zone. And remember, we don't need to be that good. If you've got a foul by one of those gunners, on the outside, that's going down to cover the receiver, just make it a PSK foul. Deep officials, we should always carry multiple beanbags to mark the, quote, spots of first touching, because there could be multiple spots of first touching by Team K. I'd recommend 2 if you're a deep official. And if necessary, always the end of the kick, because the basic spot for PSK fouls is always the end of the kick. If the end of the kick is beyond Team R's goal line, or, AKA results in a touchback, the R20 then becomes the basic spot. If Team K is in legal possession of the ball at the end of the down, they'll decline Team R's foul and take the result of the play. Really hope everybody found this training interesting. Hopefully it provides some clarity on post-scrimmage kick enforcement, and look forward to the next one. Have a great season, everybody. Take care.